extraordinary times. Times when men's hearts are consumed in their own wicked ways and lusts. Times whenever the divorce rate is highest. Times whenever the teen pregnancy rates and suicide rates are at all-time highs. Times whenever people's love for money outweigh their love for God. But these are not hopeless times. God has a solution of melting hearts like wax before Him. In times like this, we need extraordinary people who are created with extraordinary sacrifice. For every second, 2 people die. For every second, 2 people die. The first thing we must do in order to live a life of extraordinary sacrifice is we must allow Jesus to become our example of extraordinary sacrifice. Jesus laid down His life for the lost. He humbled Himself and became obedient to the cross. Paul says in Philippians 2:5, "Let this mind be in you that was also in Christ Jesus." We must have the mind of extraordinary sacrifice. Jesus went everywhere preaching and teaching. It's Mark 10:45. It says, "For even the Son of Man came not to be ministered unto, but to minister and to give His life a ransom for many." Jesus gave up His right and said, "Not my will, but thine be done." Again, let this mind be in you that was also in Christ Jesus. We must embrace this lifestyle. This must become a part of who we are in order to see the results that we so want. We must embrace this mindset of fulfilling the purpose and call on our lives no matter the cost. In Romans 12:1, Paul urges us to present our bodies a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable unto God, which is our reasonable service. All that we are is His. All that we become is for His glory and His honor. Once we grasp a hold of the mind of Christ and take action through sacrifice, we will begin to see the results of what we so desperately long for. We will have eyes of compassion that will move us to take actions of extraordinary sacrifice. Just as Jesus knew when His time had come, we also know that now is the time, that as a generation of believers, that we must arise and let our flesh die and allow our spirits to speak aloud. The second thing we must do is we must allow our dreams to become a reality. That not only do we hear about the miracles and wonders, but we are taking part in them, and it is a reality. We must be extraordinary in our sacrifice, our time, and our faith in order to see the glory of God revealed on this earth. Here's the story of a teenage boy named Hezekiah who lived in Laos in Southeast Asia. Hezekiah heard of the good news of Jesus. He came back and told his family and the villagers. As he began to tell them, one man got very furious and grabbed Hezekiah and began to beat him. As he beat him, others joined, and soon Hezekiah was left unconscious, bleeding, and bruised. But Hezekiah laid there, and soon his friend came and grabbed Hezekiah and took him into his home and nourished him. Hezekiah, it took him 4 days before he could even raise his head from off the bed. Hezekiah was soon kicked out of his village and was not welcome in his home, but that did not stop him. Hezekiah still went on to preach the good news of Christ. He went from village to village telling about who Christ was. He was kicked out of and beaten out of at least 10 villages. He still continued to share the gospel, and he is still faithful for that 30 that has been converted. Just as Hezekiah saw more than a person, we too must see more than a person. We must allow the mind of Christ to become real to us, to where we see people's eternity. Even though Hezekiah was rejected and beaten for his faith, he still held on to the mind of Christ and took action through it. Just as Hezekiah had the mind of Christ, will we do the same? Will we put our lives on hold to better the kingdom of heaven? People are waiting for someone to say something, for someone who will stand up and tell them the truth, for someone who will live extraordinary in their sacrifice. Will you be